So this is a great story that shows you how they undermine even independent media. Who do I mean? I mean the security state, the warmongers, and the corporate propagandists. This is a great story about that, and it's about the Grayzone. And this guy, Paul Mason, he had a secret project against the Grayzone, right? Because the Grayzone tells the truth about foreign policy, and they can't have that, right? They can't have the truth being told about Syria or Palestine or Ukraine or Venezuela or anything. And so this guy is, well, here's the headline. Paul Mason's covert intelligence linked to plot to destroy the Grayzone exposed. So they got some emails. So, well, here's the story. In a series of recent columns, Mason called for the state-enforced suppression of facts and perspectives he considers overly sympathetic to the Kremlin, and demanded that state action against members of the media that oppose the NATO line on Ukraine. He placed the Grayzone at the top of his fantasy censorship target list.
That's his term? Or like
my term.
Oh, I was hoping it was on the top of the list, fantasy censorship list.
So here's the email, and here's what it says. The Grayzone, meanwhile, has learned through anonymously leaked emails and documents that Mason has been engaged in a malicious, secret campaign that aims to enlist the British state and friendly intelligence cutouts to undermine, censor, and even criminalize anti-war dissenters. In one leaked email, Mason thundered for the relentless deplatforming of the Grayzone and the creation of a kind of permanent rebuttal operation to discredit the Grayzone. The Grayzone. They have, so if they're doing this to the Grayzone, they're doing this to everybody.
It's for a war we're not in. Like, how would it even harm in any way? I know America's not fighting in this war. Why would he need to be down on?
Here we go. Well, in another celebrity, in another email, the celebrity journalist declared that the far left rogue academics is who I'm after. So we just featured a story about them going after a British professor for telling the truth about Syria, and this is him. The rant that he is motivated by fear of an emergent left anti-imperialist identity, which will be attractive because liberalism doesn't know how to counter it. So, yeah, so most people are going to be anti-imperialist. So this guy, that's the guy that we're talking about. We found his email. Max Blumenthal in the Grayzone got his emails, and he joined up with this guy. He's joined his covert crusade with this guy, Emil Khan. That's him right there, Emil Khan, the founder of a shadowy intelligence contractor called Valiant Projects. In the cache of leaked emails, Khan proposed to Mason, so this guy proposes to him, the initiation of a clever John Oliver-style stunt that makes the Grayzone a laughingstock. Now, what makes this stand out to me so much is that when I told Chris Hedges, I said, what would happen if a guy like me ran for president? Because people are urging me to run for president. And Chris Hedges, Pulitzer Prize winning Chris Hedges, said to me that they would turn you into a joke. That's what they would take a clip that you said, or they would invent something, and then they would turn you into a punchline and a joke. And that's exactly what they quoted as trying to do to Grayzone. That's exactly, they wanted to turn them into a laughingstock, a joke, a punchline. And they also wanted to go full nuclear legal to squeeze them financially, like cutting off the sources of funding, like Patreon, PayPal, stuff like that. So they can't use those things.
Or a lawsuit.
It's
already been done to us and was
that's right.
part of the same strategy.
And you won that lawsuit and got dismissed, right?
Correct.
The Grayzone has previously, now who is this guy? So, who is this guy, Paul Mason? The Grayzone has previously revealed this guy, Khan. The Grayzone has previously revealed Khan's extensive involvement in the Syrian dirty war, during which he provided public relations guidance to jihadist groups. trained anti-government activists and communication strategies, and secretly oversaw supposed citizen journalist collectives backed by foreign governments. His goal was to flood international media with pro-opposition propaganda, destabilize the government of Bashar Assad, and ready the ground for Western regime change. So this guy was he's doing all the propaganda so we could do a regime change in Syria that they've wanted to do for decades. The same techniques of manipulation and information warfare that Khan honed in Syria were turned against Western citizens when he oversaw a British quasi-state-funded AstroTurf YouTube project designed to counter public skepticism of COVID-related restrictions. I think I got caught up in that.
You know who they should have got for that? The big idea with Donnie Deutsch to brainstorm some big ideas. For the field. Together,
Khan and that guy Mason plotted to assemble a coalition of anti-Grayzone actors, including the United States and the UK government-funded open source outlet Bellingcat, which Mason revealingly described as a channel for intel service input by proxy. Max, tell me why that's interesting, because I don't even understand what that means. So tell me what that
should be the banner in place of "Democracy Dies in the Darkness." It should say "Intel Service Input by Proxy."
So tell me what that means, Max, and why is that important?
It just means it's like a dumpster for NATO intelligence services to get stuff out in the media.
Okay.
You make T-shirts of that?
This is a guy who is an insider who obviously knows Bellingcat, and this is how he refers to them in private, in the most candid terms possible, as intel service by proxy. So in other words, they're a proxy of the US and UK intelligence services in his if you see somebody from Bellingcat, you might as well be looking at someone from the CIA or the MI6 or something like that. They're the most celebrated media organization in the West, I would say.
Bellingcat.
You're right, but by no one you've ever met in life.
Yeah. The only people who like them are like media hacks and
Bellingcat
services. I mean, it's not like they have some popular base that
Bellingcat came at us. They tried to say that I was, getting paid off by Assad. That's what the Bellingcat tried to say.
I never heard of them until I saw your show.
Yes,
one time. I know a lot of media people.
Well, now they just got a puff piece on 60 Minutes a couple of weeks ago, and we covered it. So then he goes on to say, Khan, that guy Khan, he proposed convening the de facto victims of Grayzone Memorial Foundation. What the F?
That's kind of a joke. It was
like a snappy John Oliver clever joke.
Yeah, that was our attempt at humor.
Oh, that's your joke?
Referring to the Victims of Communism Memorial Foundation in D.C.
Oh, okay.
Is that a thing he proposed, or you made that up?
Boy, I don't know. That's a very narrow audience for that joke.
Yeah. Okay. It's an inside joke. Grayzone owners know that.
Holy shit.
Basically, he was trying to get everyone who had been hurt or exposed by the Grayzone together, who had a vendetta, in a room so that they could plot their master plan to take us down.
You know how you always hear these kind of people accusing someone of like, oh, they did an organized campaign to whatever, the Johnny Depp did that. That's because they all do this. They all get these crazy things. Like, no one would be that insane. And
yes, they are. They all insane.
Do it.
Max, pull your mic a little closer to your mouth, just a little.
I'm like practically swallowing it.
No, bring it up a little closer. It's too far.
This is just shit like Disney does. Like, isn't it just the government? All these companies just get these crazy things together to try to ruin people.
So get this. This is from one of their emails. Number 3, Grayzone is not just pushing disinfo. It is doxing and exposing counter-disinfo actors, hence their attacks on Valent. There's been similar ops by others against British soft power institutions. This makes me believe the work should be done, so the work meaning to discredit the Grayzone, that's the work he means. The work should be done by white label organizations operating with firm InfoSec. What does that mean, Max?
information security. And by the way, sorry, I was on my Mac mic, the built-in mic, but I'm on the mic that you see presently. So basically, there's a huge irony to what he's saying here, which is that we need like information security. These guys, they always talk about OPSEC, operational security. They like to feel like they're agents out there in the field. And here they are having their emails exposed to the public. So obviously it didn't really
they're not
work
good
out
at
too well for them.
So what does white label organization mean?
Like, top of the line security firms, like we're just going to bring in the best.
Oh, okay.
And we're going to have clean phones. Our phones aren't going to, there'll be like burner phones. No one will know whose phones they are because we're going to be operating in clandestine fashion to get the gray zone. We're operating in the gray zone. They have this new concept called Grayzone warfare, where it's like warfare that doesn't quite reach conventional level. And he thinks that he's like in a Jean le Carré novel.
And so this was him saying that they're going to use like burner phones, proton mail. They're going to do all this in secret. They're going to try to take you down in secret. So
this is an email from a proton mail account, and everybody is in the UK is reading it right now. Paul Mason's name is trending on Twitter.
Yeah,
who ran this operation? Anna Kasparian.
So what he's doing, so if you were really doing something wrong and you guys were really spreading disinformation, why would he have to take you down in secret? Why would he have to do that in a clandestine way? He wouldn't, right? This is all. This reveals that what he's doing is bullshit, right, Max?
Well, Aaron Mate offered to debate Paul Mason when he published a piece in the New Statesman calling for state action to take down the Gray Zone and other what he called pro-Kremlin left publications. If we were publishing misinformation and lying left and right, I mean, Paul Mason's, he's always on British news programs. He's fairly charismatic. He could take us down in public and just discredit us. But he actually says in one email that we need to avoid toe-to-toe engagement and do this through, constant attacks and clandestine operations. He doesn't want to debate us, and it's because he knows that what we're saying is true. His problem is that it's making an impact.
That first line that he says it's not just disinformation. I got Max screwed up. What does that say, Jimmy? The top line again?
It says Grayzone is not just pushing disinformation; it is doxing and exposing counter disinformation actors.
So you're exposing their shit.
That's what he's saying. So he's admitting that Grayzone is being effective in exposing their propagandists, their pro-war propagandists, military-industrial complex, security state bullshit. That's what that says, right?
Yeah, and then they all, he uses like Taylor Lorenz language throughout all these emails, doxing. Like, we don't dox anyone. We actually covered up the email addresses on all of these, so we're not publishing people's personal information. And he then accuses us of bullying and cyber stalking and harassment. It's just using that whole language of violence when what's really happening is just journalism.
And
he's doing it while he's planning a harassment campaign.
Yes.
Correct.
It is Taylor. There's a whole school of this.
Yes. So they accuse you of doing what they're doing.
Right.
He was enthused by the latter prospect, submitting that it should be combined with relentless deplatforming, including cutting off the Gray Zone from donation sources such as PayPal in the manner of Consortium News and Minpress, and setting up a kind of permanent rebuttal operation. So this is their goal. That they try to discredit. They've done that. That's not working. They try to do it to me. It's not working. And here, they're going to go after, frickin' Consortium News and Minpress's funding. So they could do this to anybody. So at the snap of a finger, the guy who runs PayPal and the guy who runs Patreon could just cut you off. And they've done it to other people. And they don't have to answer to anybody. And they can just do that because they're a private company. And they're sitting there trying to figure a way how to do that to Grayzone, and don't think they haven't tried, that there aren't people like this in conjunction with the security state in secret trying to do that to independent news people all over YouTube. his directorate source said the British government would be averse to sending a rep. Oh, so this is that meeting, right? So then he convenes this meeting of all the people
they're talking about the meeting. I don't know if it ever took place.
So he's talking about having a meeting of all the people the Grayzone have exposed in their proxies. And he said that the source said that the British government would be adverse to sending a representative to the gathering as it could jeopardize outcomes later. Like, we don't want to tip our hand, let people know what we're doing. Nonetheless, they advocated convening people targeted by the Grayzone to collate evidence that could be submitted to OFCOM, Britain's communications regulator, and or a digital cultural media and sports, the name of both a government department. So what they want to do is tattle on you to the government regulators in Britain that control actually communication. They don't have free speech like we have here in the United States, and they could get you kicked off all the stuff, right? But idiots don't realize that that Ofcom, that British body, does not have any jurisdiction over YouTube, and your website, right?
Right.
Which is where you appear. So they're just dumb.
It's laughable. I mean, they don't have jurisdiction over any website, as far as I know. It's broadcast media that Ofcom primarily deals with in the UK. We're not based in the UK.
I know.
I mean, I like going there and whatnot.
Right.
I mean, if they want to kick me out of the UK, fine. But this is just laughable. Go on. This is even funnier.
Well, he responds. So he responded today on Twitter. And by the way, you can't respond to this. He doesn't let anybody respond. He did that thing where you can't respond to it.
Look at him. He's in a hostage video in the upper right hand.
So this is him.
This is not a well person.
He says, I've been targeted by a Russian hack and leak operation.
Also, I saw a sexist retweet.
Last week, an attempt was made to hack my encrypted and secure email account. The circumstance, there wasn't an attempt. It happened. The circumstances of the attack suggested it's highly likely that a Russian state or a state-backed unit carried out the attack. I have informed the police and the NCSC. Today, materials purporting to be emails and other content from me were published by the Grayzone. So that's the stuff we're showing you right now. And he says, in the process, Grayzone may have risked exposure of my confidential journalistic sources. I guess too bad. I make no comment on such materials. And you know why? Because they're true. Because they're your actual emails. This is the way he's actually kind of confirming that the emails are true by saying this. He says, I make no comment on such materials which may be altered or faked. He's not saying they are altered or faked because they're not.
This is a pretty long non-comment, by the way.
That's what Malcolm Nance said about the Podesta emails. He said they're probably fake or altered.
But this guy, he's not even saying probably. He's saying may. They may have. Oh, no.
Down below.
They may be altered or faked. Grayzone's publication has the effect of assisting a Russian state-backed hack and leak disinformation campaign. Isn't that nice? Every time something happens, you just blame Russia. Isn't that nice? Gas prices, inflation. My email got hacked. Fucking Russia. Oh, I got caught calling people homophobic names. Russia. That's what Joyanne Reed did. My determination to expose and counter Russian disinformation campaigns and attacks on our democracy is well known. I will not be deterred from this. I think you are being. I urge my colleagues in the labor and trade union movement to remain vigilant against the information war being waged upon us. And that's why you didn't let anybody respond to that? That's why, because you know what you're saying is true? Anyway, Max, what would you like to say about his rebuttal?
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, go to Paul Mason's Twitter account, and he's kind of trying to coast through this, posting some recent columns, and every column is just getting ratioed to hell by the UK left because they're furious because he composed this chart of
this chart
of enemies.
This,
yeah.
Why do they always make that chart? All of them do that.
They all do this.
It's like it's a crazy chart, and not everything connects. But if you look to the left, there's the Russian and Chinese government, and then you start to get into like Code Pink and the Morning Star newspaper, and all Diane Abbott, this member of parliament who supported Jeremy Corbyn, is on there for some
Stop
reason.
the wars, Jeremy Corbyn.
Novara Media is up there.
This is like a crazy person would make.
They're a Corbynite media group, and then you see in the white all the way to the right, it says up at the top, Muslim community, the young network left, and the black communities in there. Like community. George Orwell snitched on Paul Robeson. Paul Mason snitching on the entire black community.
Yes. So we have to be suspicious of the entire black community, the entire Scottish nation, all the trade unions, the labor left, young networked left, and the Muslim community, according to that guy.
Is that what that's saying? Why don't not just list all the names? Like, what do the lines do?
What he's saying with the lines and what he's doing here is he's constructing a scenario which he sincerely believes is true, in which the Russian and Chinese governments are using the entire UK grassroots left either as useful idiots or as willing tools to influence Labor's key constituencies who are to the right and corrupt them, and calling those key constituencies themselves useful tools of the Russian and Chinese government to destroy British democracy, and therefore the left has to be neutralized. That's what Mason is saying. And at the center of that list is the most important figure, Jeremy Corbyn, who Mason says in these emails is he's afraid that Corbyn will start a new party with Laura Pidcock. And so Mason is someone who claimed to be one of Corbyn's most esteemed media supporters, but he has been plotting against him in private all along, it appears. There are other recordings showing Mason grumbling about Corbyn, and now we know that he sees Corbyn, according to this chart, as public enemy number one and someone who he wants to plot against with intelligence contractors from Bellingcat to Emil Khan. And that's why the British public needs to have this information. It needs to know this about Paul Mason, because Paul Mason has just announced a run for a parliament seat on the Labour ticket. So these emails have an enormous interest. They are enormously interesting and important for the public to see. I can't say that they're a Russian hacker leak operation. I don't know if Russia has anything to do with it. But what I do know is that the public has a need for transparency here when someone is operating in such a malicious fashion against not just the Grayzone, but the entire UK left, and seeking to involve the state in a clandestine assault. This is the attack on democracy. The attack on democracy is coming from Paul Mason himself. He is a threat to British democracy, not the figures and organizations listed on that chart.
So it's real. This is all very real. And so when you do work like you do, you're going to get targeted. And
we have been targeted. And I know for a fact we've been targeted by intelligence linked elements in the UK. I know who they are. I know this has been going on for years, specifically since we started exposing the Syrian White Helmets operation. But now we have the receipts. We have the hard details of plans for a new operation. It vindicates everything I've been saying.
And so you're not going to tell me who the Russian was who gave you those emails, right? Well, there it is. Great story. Thanks for revealing that guy. By the way, what's weird is, let me show you this. I forgot to point this out. This motherfucker follows me.
Yeah. See, Mason, he blocked me for a long time because I occasionally would mock the stupid stuff he would say about like the need to infuse more public funds into the British arms industry. He would just say, and then, while posing as a leftist, he blocked me. He was very thin-skinned, but then recently he started following all of us because he's monitoring us and he believes we're all part of this anti-imperialist identity operation to crush liberalism.
So, is that him trying to monitor me? I thought that was like,
But he's monitoring you.
I'm also following him. And I don't remember following him. So maybe he must have liked one of my tweets or something, and he was a blue check, and I thought he was a real lefty, so maybe I followed him or something. I wonder why I'm following him.
Maybe this really is one big clever John Oliver style stunt.
Well, one of the most comical aspects of it is that Emil Khan actually reached out to Nina Jankowicz,
Yes.
off-Broadway star and disgraced former head of the Department of Homeland Security's Disinformation Governance Board, for advice on this whole operation.
Just a spoonful of Grayzone will.
Yeah, I don't know what Mary Poppins song she sang back to him, but this is the person that they are consulting as an expert.
Yes.
They were like, who's behind Consortium News? That's what Emil Khan was saying. It's always like, who's behind this? Who's behind that? Because they can't imagine that anyone would arrive at these opinions or beliefs on their own from an authentic point of view, or that thousands of people wouldn't support us. I mean, like, I have librarians sending me $20 checks, like retired people supporting us, like from across America, who just believe the same thing that we believe, that we don't want to live in an empire where we're sending $40 billion to Ukraine and we can't even have basic Medicare paid for by our government. What is so crazy? And then we're not falling for all your deceptions. We're going to expose them. I don't need some guy from the FSB to hand me a briefcase full of money to get me to do that. They do. And so they're projecting from like the British state or whatever. They do. And so they're projecting their own sensibility onto us. And that's why they're so paranoid about us. Because they live, as Kit Clarenberg wrote in this piece I co-authored with him, and props to Kit for pulling all this together. I mean, he's one of the sharpest reporters on these issues today. As Kit wrote, they're living in a wilderness of mirrors, and that's why they're getting so humiliated right now, because reality is breaking through.
Well, I'm glad to have you on and expose a tool like Paul Mason. Now, he say he's running for parliament?
Yep, and with a very clear intention to wage his war for military intervention in Ukraine and against disinformation, pro-Kremlin actors, meaning the entire UK grassroots left. He wants to wage that war inside Parliament.
What is the Fromm Prize?
I think it's named for Eric Fromm. I don't know if Eric Fromm would really support what Paul Mason is doing. But,
is it the David Frum Prize?
It's more like
more like the David Frum Prize. Here, we're doing stand-up comedy in Los Angeles on June 11th, and then we're going to Chicago, Sacramento, and San Diego on July 16th for the taping of my new special. Go to jimmydorcomedy.com for a link for all tickets. See you there.